Many of you know the Pythagorean theorem, possibly not by name, but the equation a squared plus b squared equals c squared is something that has been drilled into students' minds. However, some may not know the history behind this theorem. For centuries, people all over the world have used the Pythagorean theorem in construction, land surveying, and other activities. This theorem is also involved in a cult, oxen sacrifice, and a man's death, which is pretty crazy for a small equation. I am Mr. Durstein, and this is a brief history of the Pythagorean theorem. Although the Greek mathematician Pythagoras is given credit for this theorem, it was in use for over 1,000 years before he was born. Ancient Babylonian master builders used the Pythagorean theorem in construction, and we know that they are aware of the relationship between the sides of right triangles because of an inscribed tablet with Pythagorean triples. A Pythagorean triple is a set of 3 whole numbers in which you can square the first two, add them together, and get the square of the last, such as 3, 4, and 5. The Chinese were also aware of the relationship between the sides of the right triangle involved in the theorem. It is believed that they possibly may have even proved the theorem before Pythagoras using a method involving the areas of squares. And Egyptians used the theorem as an aid to construct right angles in many of their structures. Ancient Egyptian architects wanted perfect 90-degree angles on the walls of their buildings to improve stability, and the relationship involved in the theorem helped achieve this. Now, even though these ancient civilizations were aware of the relationship involved in right triangles, they did not write it down, or they lost it on their desk, who knows. The credit of writing it down and proving it goes to Pythagoras, and his reward was getting everyone's favorite theorem named after him. Pythagoras was born around 500 BC on the island of Samos in Greece. Not much is known of his youth, but it is thought that he did a lot of traveling through Egypt and surrounding countries to study. He finally settled in the Italian city of Crotone and began his brotherhood, or cult, whichever you feel comfortable calling it. This group became known as the Pythagoreans. Now, the Pythagoreans loved math, and I really stressed loved. They pretty much worshipped mathematics and had rituals and prayers within their meetings. They believed that numbers ruled the universe and that numbers were endowed with mystical and spiritual qualities. Now, it was the Pythagoreans, whether it was Pythagoras by himself or someone else in the group, that came up with a proof involving the relationship between the sides of a right triangle. And legend has it, when Pythagoras completed his theorem, he sacrificed 100 oxen. Now, please don't get that excited when you prove this theorem. Clapping and cheering is cool. But sacrificing animals to the number deities crosses the line. Oh, I almost forgot that I mentioned this theorem was involved in a man's death. One problem the Pythagoreans noticed with their new theorem was that when a triangle had the legs with the size of 1, they could not measure the hypotenuse with a ruler divided into fractional parts. We know these numbers as irrational numbers, or numbers who cannot be written as a fraction and whose decimal goes on forever without repeating. The Pythagoreans called these unutterable numbers. For a group that worshiped numbers, finding a number that cannot be expressed, no matter how hard they tried, really freaked them out. One of their members mentioned the existence of these unutterable numbers to the public, and what the Pythagoreans did to him is unutterable in a classroom. Well, that pretty much sums it up. I hope you enjoyed this brief history of the Pythagorean theorem, and to learn how to calculate and apply the theorem, please stay tuned and listen to my lecture.